Everyone. Welcome to today's Champions Network Spotlight. My name is Rebecca Roulier, and I'm here with Carolyn Swords. Carolyn is a WNBA star, social activist, and former BC Eagle and high school Massachusetts Gatorade Player of the Year for Lincoln Sudbury Regional High School. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time. It's great to have someone here with local roots on our Champions Network Spotlight. And I understand you decided to lace up your sneakers again pretty quickly, jump back into the WNBA. And so wild. And given COVID, found yourself playing in the bubble or the wubble, as people called it. Can you tell us some more about that?
Sure. So at the end of last season, I had decided it was time to retire. So I was going to be moving into a role with the front office with the Aces here in Vegas as a marketing specialist. So like all of us, I thought my 2020 was going to look a little different. Getting back into playing was an unexpected, but really a great surprise. Due to the shutdown that we've all experienced, I actually was furloughed. And, that means that there was kind of a temporary pause on my ability to go to work. So that was initially frustrating because I had just started my role as marketing specialist. And I really loved what I was doing. But it seemed like it was going to be pretty short term, that we were going to be able to kind of get back on track. But again, as we all know, things kind of evolved and the situation got more severe, and the WNBA season was going to be delayed, and we didn't really know what that was going to look like. So about the day that I thought that I needed to start looking at a backup plan, I got a phone call from our GM, and one of our centers, who is from South Korea, she had decided that she was going to stay home and just kind of train with her national team, and that traveling would maybe not be the best idea. So the Aces were in need of another center and asked if I was willing to jump in. And even though I took the weekend to think about it, I almost immediately knew that I wanted to give it a go. Yeah. So I was really excited to have the opportunity to kind of jump back in with my teammates and go play again.
That's an amazing story. I think in this COVID world, we're all doing things sort of like last minute and making these quick decisions. But yeah. For you, what really lit that fire to jump back on the court again?
Sure. So it's kind of odd to say that it's something that I immediately felt was the right thing to do. But even though I had retired, I haven't lost it's something that I still find a lot of fun. I have been a player for the Aces for the last, 2 seasons, and now this last one was my 3rd anyway. So I'm very familiar with the girls on the team, and it's a great group. I know the coach very well. I played for him in New York, Bill Lambier, who's kind of the notorious bad boy, who was always giving our Celtics a hard time. But he's a really great coach. I've loved learning from him. So it was really a very easy decision for me to make, to have the opportunity to get back on the court. And I think we all know that sports can be a really special resource in terms of, physical activity, but even giving us kind of a break mentally and getting some endorphins going. So I was really looking forward to having a game, games in a season to be able to prepare for day in and day out and kind of get more of a regular routine. I did have a lot of work ahead of me because I was, I was doing the best I could with workouts safely, but gyms weren't necessarily open yet. And so I was going for runs outside, but that's very different than being a post player and having to guard, these Olympian post players on the floor. And so went from just kind of my own fitness goals to getting back to being strong and explosive and all of those skills that are necessary to be able to survive a professional basketball game. So that was a little daunting to have to think like, all right, I only have maybe a couple weeks to switch gears. But luckily I was already in Vegas. we were starting to safely open up gyms, and I had an opportunity to kind of find my rhythm again. So it was a lot of hard work, but again, it was a nice routine to have, something to look forward to every day to get out on the court.
Yeah, yeah. And could you tell us, especially for players who are watching, how did you get yourself ready so quickly, both physically and mentally?
So again, we were really lucky that out here at the time, Nevada was doing well, and so our governor, who's been very strict about making sure that everything in terms of reopening is going safely, he was okay to start opening some gyms to limited capacity. So we were able to get into a practice gym very safely, like distance and start shooting again. But even just really focusing on my strength, because at the post player position, lots of incredibly talented players. It's a very physical game. So making sure that I was ready to go from a strength perspective. And then luckily I had been running, so I had a pretty good, baseline in terms of my cardio. But going for a run outside is different than sprinting up and down the floor.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky that I was in a place where I could get back to work and just, every day was trying to chip away at it. And the first workout back was one of the hardest workouts I've ever had. But it just gets easier. You have to just kind of like understand that there's going to be maybe a little, I was very sore initially, but you're going to work through that. It was all coming back. And I was able to make good progress until we got into the bubble, which was really when we were allowed to, for the first time, go 5-on-5. We were very regimented in how the league wanted to allow workouts to take place before we got there. So we were allowed to work out with our coaches, but on an individual basis, just because they didn't want us to start working out together and then start, potentially passing anything amongst ourselves. So, just tried our best to work within the parameters, and everything was for our safety. And it's really great looking back that we were able to accomplish this in a very safe manner.
Yeah. And for those of us who aren't aware of all those restrictions in the bubble, could you tell us a little bit more what that was like? And I've heard from
Sure.
players that there was a pretty big strain mentally, just living within that context. Could you share about that?
Sure. It was a very, there were some really unexpected mental challenges, especially as WNBA players. Many of us are used to in our off season. So the WNBA season's in the summer, and then many of us during the winter go overseas. And so being away from home wasn't necessarily a new thing for us, but it was very different to be kind of limited in where you're allowed to go. So we were on the IMG campus down in Florida. They're a very high level sports high school. So we had to stay on campus unless we were on the bus going to our game courts. But that meant, we're not going to the grocery store, we're getting groceries delivered to us. And I initially thought, I'm pretty low maintenance, I'll be fine. I just need practice, and then there's going to be a pool down there. It's summer, I'll be fine. But I think the like very, very busy schedule, because we're trying to be as safe as possible with all 12 teams using the same facilities. And I'm sure many of the athletes on with us know that, you start to find a routine that works well for you. So you find success in your routine, when you should go to bed, what you like to eat, and what time you want to train, what time you want to see your trainer and maybe lift. And all of that was suddenly out of our control. So it was all for good reason, in that we were making sure that there was plenty of time for staff to like wipe down the courts, and that we're keeping the facilities as clean as possible. But especially for a veteran player who I feel like I have a rhythm at this point, there was a lot of, adjustment, and every day kind of figuring out like, okay, what's my game plan? And then try to go from there. additionally, like our game schedule was really intense. We were playing every other day, and that's a lot. That's a lot to be playing really high level games every other day. So some of us look back, I've texted with my teammates now that we're out and thought like, oh my gosh, how on earth did we pull it off? But really it's a tribute to our staff and our trainers. They did a great job keeping us healthy, helping us to recover. So there was just some unexpected surprises, but it was really special that we got to pull off a season successfully.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that piece that you're talking about around controllables versus uncontrollables is
Yeah,
something that we're all grappling with, whether we're playing in the WNBA or we're not. It's just what can we maintain control over versus what can we be mindful about?
hmm,
Stay in the moment and sort of just like let go, which is so hard for all of us, but also
yeah,
goes with like the athlete mentality.
right, exactly. I've found over the course of my life that basketball and athletics has really been a great outlet whenever, whether facing adversity or when things are very uncertain. And so it's been really challenging. I think that COVID, to an extent, has taken a lot of that away from us, and especially initially. And so, those of us who might have relied on our sport and being able to get out with our teammates, we were very limited in that capacity. It's great that we're finding ways to do this safely. And I think that that's really important, that, exercise and that team dynamic is coming back to us. But it's very challenging, if something that you're used to being there and finding like you've had kind of a coping mechanism and now that's kind of called into question, that's pretty scary and difficult to navigate. So it's something that, whether you're a young athlete or professionals, everyone's been kind of feeling the same thing. It's been really interesting to see that.
Yeah, yeah. I also think people are starting to appreciate sport too, and not
Yeah,
sport as many think about it in the competitive sense, but sport as in walking or just going out in your yard and the value of exercise in this COVID world. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, but to your point too about sport essentially being a go-to for you, you have some adversity in your own life and some
Hmm.
experiences that have made you sort of lean into sport and use those lessons. Are there things that you might want to share with our youth community or coach community that they might enjoy listening to?
Sure. So my family has encountered some adversity when we were younger. My mother passed away when I was about 9 years old. She had cancer. And then my dad, right before I started my freshman year in college, he had kind of an unexpected heart condition. And so, losing those figures in your life, losing your parents and in very, at the time I thought unexpected ways. When I was very young when my mom passed away, I think the adults kind of understood what was going on. It's you feel like you kind of lose your balance. And, first of all, the support that my extended family lent us. So my mom's sister, who really is now like my mom, she took us in immediately, was very supportive of, really helped my dad navigate having 3 young kids. And she and her sons, who I now consider my brothers, were just a combined family now. And so really having that immediate family support has been like the most important thing. And she has really done a great job of kind of, our slogan kind of is keep moving forward. So helping us the best we can to just try to get back to normal, whatever that looks like. And every day you wake up and you just do your best, try to do the things that you're used to doing. And eventually, you'll start to feel like, all right, I can keep going along. It's going to be okay. And we all used sport as an outlet. So I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to play professionally. That never really came from kind of, okay, this is my goal to go play professionally. Initially, it was just like, basketball and these sports are really fun. They make me feel good. Like, I'm just going to really focus on that. And same thing in college, like, all right, I'm going to throw myself into my studies and practice and just do the best I can. And, you know, to an extent, kind of having that short-term focus of like, this is what I just have to do today. We have practice and then homework, and I'm going to do the best I can, and we'll see what happens. And that's not to say that every day is going to be perfect. There's some days you know, you try your best and it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that discipline and resilience of like, I'm just going to keep trying, and knowing that whether it's coaches or family, siblings, or other mentors in your life, that they're there to support you. So it's not a bad thing to reach out for help, and they're all kind of helping you to get back on track. So, you know, basketball has always kind of been a constant for me. And it really felt like a gift this summer that amidst so much uncertainty, I was able to kind of get back into it. And so with the combination of really phenomenal family members and my mom and my brothers, and the rest, you know, and my siblings, and then having us focus on, okay, let's just have fun, be kids, play some sports, was really an incredible moment for us to help us kind of get back on track and, you know, help us to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for sharing
Yeah.
that story. And for our kids at Doc Wayne, our kids that are served through our partners in the Champions Network, um, it's just such a beautiful story of resilience and
Thanks.
such a clear message that if you get up every day and you try your best, that great things will happen and resilience is possible. Uh, so I just thank you for sharing that. And it's
Thanks.
such a great thing that it was true in your life every day as a kid, but also
Mhm.
it proved to be helpful and valuable in
Yeah.
COVID world. It brought you to the WNBA championship game.
Oh, that was unbelievable. You know, my goal heading into the season was just like, look like you know what you're doing out there.
Yeah.
You know, because I hadn't picked up a basketball in maybe 8 months, you know, once I got back into workouts. And so there's definitely something to like losing your edge a little bit and knowing that I was going to have to play at a really high level. And so I was actually very nervous for the first game of the season because I was like, well, I think practices have been going well, but you know, who knows? So it actually was setting the bar, you know, at like, I'm really just out here to be playing and serve my teammates and my team. And I'm going to do the best I can, and kind of whatever happens, happens. You know, and initially when I signed on, I thought that I was maybe going to get a couple minutes here and there because we had another center, Liz Cambage from Australia. She's an Olympian. She's a superstar. And as I was getting back into workouts, it became clear that she wasn't going to necessarily be able to join us either. And so I went from being maybe playing a couple minutes to like the most minutes of my career. And so I tried very hard not to worry about, you know, the implications of that. I can only be myself on the court. And so just making sure that I was doing my job to the best of my abilities, make it look like I can still play basketball. And it ended up being one of the most fun seasons because I was a little bit more relaxed on the court. I was just like, all right, I'm just going to focus on this moment. We're going to have fun out here. And the games were really, you know, even though there were a lot of challenges in the bubble, the games were a lot of fun because so many of us had been away from the game, unable to play. The other women who hadn't necessarily retired, they had to come back early from overseas because everything was shutting down. So it was a bit like a celebration that we were out there on the court together. It was, yeah, it was really great. It was awesome.
Yeah, and love the emphasis on joy and celebration because honestly, that's when we play our best. And just as
Yeah,
people, like that's when we make the best connections. And it's just when we perform the best is when we're happy. And
exactly.
yeah, overall, that's wonderful. You've shared so much wonderful information already, but do you have any other words of wisdom or advice or tips for kids and coaches as they navigate sports, but also just life, because life is really what this is all about during these very uncertain times?
I hope that everyone's staying safe. I feel like I've been really proud from afar that Massachusetts has been doing a great job of making sure that, instructions are clear and that everyone's trying to stay as safe as possible. So, if anything, our bubble season where we were testing every day and wearing masks and still distancing, it kind of proved that all this works. And so, I know it's been a long year of that, but I just want to encourage everyone to, stay vigilant. We'll get through it. And like staying safe is the number one thing. And then if everyone does have the opportunity to either, go play their sport, whether it's in a team setting or go for a walk, easier said than done. But again, really trying to like lose yourself in that moment, in that workout, because it's good to kind of forget everything else and really find that joy on the court or on the field, be with your teammates and your coaches and just focus on those problems. It'll, I think, give you some restoration. It's something, that's how my season felt for me. So just hoping that everyone is staying safe and continuing to have fun. And we're in this together, whether you're a young athlete and the pros, we're all on the same page, and we just want to support you guys. So, all the best, really.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. Those are great tips. And at Docwing, we think of mental health for all people, and it's certainly on a continuum. So we all want to support well-being and health and happiness. And those are just wonderful things, and sort of lose yourself in these joyful moments.
Yeah.
That when it gets a little bit tough, you can reflect on those things and hold
Mm-hmm.
that moment in your mind. But if you have, I've been peppering you with questions, but if you have a question for me, I'm open. And if you don't, that's okay too.
I think I'm okay. I just wanted to also say, still a huge Boston sports fan, so supporting from afar. Waiting
Yeah.
for the next season to get going and, again, safely, but I'm with you guys always.
Yeah, I heard that comment about the Celtics earlier.
Oh, yeah.
How does that go for you living in Las Vegas?
It's been going great. I really didn't know what to expect moving out here. I had never been previously. So, but I knew my coach and I knew some of the girls who I'd be playing with. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, like I know basketball, I know the plays, and we'll see what happens. And I've been really pleasantly surprised to see that there's quite a strong community out here in Vegas. It's really fun to be part of this wave of pro sports that are relatively new to the city, which is very different from how I grew up in Boston with like such
Yeah.
a like legendary sports history, that I was born into these dynasties of the Celtics and the Patriots and everything. And so it's been really fun to bring that joy to the people who live here in the community, and they've really embraced us fully. So it's a great time to be an athlete out here in Vegas. It's been really fun.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I was also born into these dynasties as someone who was born in the Boston community, and especially proud of the work the Celtics are doing around social
Mm-hmm.
justice. So just
Yeah, they've been doing a great job.
they have been. So I want to give the Boston Celtics a special shout out for that. And while we're on shout outs, as we do here at Doc Wayne, just want to give Athletes for Hope a special shout out as well for sending Carolyn to us today. If you don't know them, definitely look them up. They're a wonderful organization. So thank you. And Carolyn does great work with Athletes for Hope. But thank you, Carolyn, so much for your time today. And for those who aren't familiar with our work, the Champions Network is a Doc Wayne initiative, and we provide online self-paced training, which is available 24/7 to coaches, clinicians, and teachers around the world. It provides training videos and instructor-led sessions, live and recorded, focused on developing awareness around youth mental health, empowering clinicians and educators to support youth through sport-based initiatives, and ultimately creating greater connectedness within our communities. And Doc Ween, here in Boston, also provides sport-based group therapy. And during COVID, we've been really focusing on telehealth and breaking down stigma, increasing access. And if you need mental health services, training, or resources, please reach out to us at support@docween.org. And for more information, you can visit our website. But Carolyn, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's been watching on our live feed. And this session today is part of a larger series, and you will be able to access the recording on our YouTube page. But that's all for us today, and I hope you stay healthy and happy. Take care.
Thanks.